his graduation certificate from Scottish Churches College as a protest of British rule. He didn't go for his graduation ceremony. And so he put up a resistance to this instruction. He said, who will hear India's message so long as we are an occupied country? First, we must be free of foreign rule. Then we can try to share India's message with the world. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's response is so perfect, and it's been ringing in my ears, particularly in the past few years of great political tension. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, Lord Chaitanya's teachings are too important for any ideal political situation. It's too urgent, and the perfect political situation will never come. The political situation will always be changing. And so you must take Chaitanya's message now. And Prabhupada took this as a perfect answer. He felt happily defeated by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's response. And he accepted Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati as a spiritual master in that first meeting. When the meeting finished, his friend asked Abai, what did you think of him? And Prabhupada famously responded, Lord Chaitanya's mission is a very capable hands. That's the first instruction. The final instruction that Prabhupada received from his Guru Maharaj was just days before Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's disappearance from this world. Prabhupada had written to his Guru Maharaj, he said, I'm feeling much separation from you, and I feel that I haven't been able to serve you like my other godbrothers. Being a family man, with family responsibilities and business affairs to attend to, I haven't been able to fully surrender to a mission as my godbrothers, my brahmachari and sannyasi godbrothers have. Do you have any instruction for me? And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati wrote back to him just a few days before he left this world. He said, my instruction to you is to teach Krishna consciousness in the English language. So, first instruction and final instruction, they were the same. So, decades apart, but the same instruction Prabhupada received over and again. And he fully dedicated himself to that instruction of his spiritual master, bringing Krishna consciousness to the world, making so much sacrifice to bring Krishna consciousness to the world, with full faith in the power of the holy name, and also the will of Prabhupada and the Acharyas that this would come to pass. Within just 14 years of his coming to New York City, Krishna consciousness became a household, is a name or phrase all across the world. And if you look at Prabhupada's celebrations of Janmashtami, you see how quickly it happens. 1964, he celebrates Janmashtami in Radha Damodar Temple. The UP governor comes as a special guest. 1965, he celebrates on Board Jaladuta. 1966, he celebrates at 26 2nd Avenue and initiates 11 disciples. 1967, he celebrates in Radha Damodar Temple and initiates his first sannyas disciple. And so on. Yeah, it's so fast. So within 1 year, he's giving one of his disciples sannyas. So rapid, that expansion. When the wave came, it was a tidal wave that swept across the world. I believe it was 1974 when devotees were in Mayapur. They were on Parikrama, visiting holy places, and they were coming out of the Yogapit, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birthplace. And there were American disciples, and British disciples, and French disciples, and German disciples. I don't know at that time any Russian disciples. And possibly by descent, very possibly. And they were on that road, Bhakti Siddhanta Marg, in Mayapur, and they saw in the opposite direction a kirtan party coming of Bengali devotees, also doing parikrama. And she tells the story, he was in that group, and as they saw the Bengali devotees coming with their Vrindanas and kartals, and now going towards them with their Vrindanas and kartals, they started to sing Jai Sachidananda, Jai Sachidananda. And when the two kirtan parties met, the American and British and French and German Vaishnavas embraced their Bengali god brothers, singing this Jai Sachidananda, glory to Sri Chaitanya, in fulfillment of the prophecy. They all felt that this is it. This is what Bhakti Thakur prophesied is happening in this moment right here, right now, next to the yoga pit, the appearance place of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Prabhupada, he's the personality who brought that to bear. And to speak to these two other points, one is that by seeing them, one of the evidences of somebody who is so empowered to spread Krishna's name across the world is that by seeing them, people become Krishna conscious. And Prabhupada's potency was so great. In seeing him, people would become stunned actually. 2 weeks ago, I was at Bhaktivedanta Manor. I was celebrating 50 years of the installation of Sri Sri Radha Gokulananda by Srila Prabhupada in 1973 at Bhaktivedanta Manor. And Mother Vishaka told a story of how she and Yadav would travel with Prabhupada to record with film and with photos, so they would be able to capture on film Prabhupada's activities. And they had been at the Pandal program in Delhi, and Prabhupada had given his speech. It was a week-long Pandal in the center of Delhi, and thousands of people were coming each evening to hear Prabhupada speak. And afterwards there would be kirtan, and there were deities on the stage. They were in fact Radha Gokulananda before they had been transferred to London. And so Prabhupada had given his speech, and then devotees had started kirtan. And at one moment, Prabhupada began to dance. And I spoke to him afterwards actually in Sharjah last Saturday. And he was talking about this, and he said when Prabhupada started to dance, it was like infectious. The whole tent was like a mystical thing, that the whole tent just stood up, and they were dancing, and it was ecstatic. Prabhupada's dancing was ecstatic, and the whole tens of thousands of people who were present, they just became ecstatic in seeing Prabhupada's ecstatic dancing. It was like a wave of spiritual ecstasy that was going through this tent, through this pandal. And Vishaka tells the story that she had her camera, and she wanted to capture this moment of Prabhupada's ecstatic dancing, but she froze. The moment, it was so momentous, it was so powerful that she wasn't able to take the photo. And afterwards she chided herself, like, you're supposed to be the photographer. This is your service. You can't freeze in the moment. And so, some months later, Prabhupada was at Bhaktivedanta Manor and he installed Radha Gokulananda, and afterwards he called all the devotees onto the altar and led them in circumambulating the deities inside the deity room. And then he stood before the deities and danced, and the whole temple room became ecstatic, dancing with Prabhupada. And Vishaka was there with her camera. At that time she took the photo, because all those months she had been thinking about how she had failed in her service to capture that moment. the ecstasy had made her stunned, And we see Krishna has this effect on people. People become stunned in their ecstasy. And so that happened to her. But interestingly, Indra Maharaj tells a similar story. When he first ever saw Prabhupada, it could very well have been at JFK. Devotees were in Detroit, and he was in Detroit. And devotees came from all over because Prabhupada was arriving back in the United States, and they went to the airport to receive Prabhupada. And then the Maharaj had a camera. In those days, not many people had cameras, so that was something special that he had. He received it as a gift, even before becoming a devotee, and he had kept it with that idea, I'm going to take photos of Prabhupada. And when Prabhupada arrived and was walking into the arrival hall, Indra Maharaj stood with his camera, and afterwards he looked and he had taken 0 photos. He had been stunned in the ecstasy of the moment and wasn't actually able to press the trigger. So it was interesting for me to hear Vishaka's story and Indra Maharaj's story. Prabhupada just had this effect. His personality was so great, he awakened feelings and sentiment in people, and people became Vaishnavas. Not only seeing him, but even seeing his disciples as well, people would be transformed. So I'm giving you the Swami examples because I served him for 18 years, and so I learned about Prabhupada from him as well. And he described, the first devotees he met was at the university in Ann Arbor in Michigan, and he saw 5 sannyasis sitting on the lawn doing kirtan, and he said, I want to be like them. That was it. He was transformed by seeing these devotees. And so not only seeing Prabhupada, but also seeing those who had seen Prabhupada, there was an effect of an awakening and a desire to surrender to Krishna. And Bhagavata is giving this as an evidence of one who is empowered to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. The last evidence he gives is their spiritual ecstasies. We hinted at this where we discussed it with Prabhupada's dancing as an expression of his ecstasy. But his ecstasy goes beyond what is manifest in the body. But it also, Krishna consciousness is not just a private affair or not just an internal affair, but it is Krishna Anushilanam Bhaktirutamam. It is active. Anukulena Krishna Anushilanam. It is activity that is performed with a favorable intention of bringing pleasure to Krishna. And so if we look at Prabhupada's service, we see his ecstasy manifest as so many wonderful offerings of service. It's not just hair standing on end and crying tears of love, but it's his Bhaktivedanta purports, his translation and commentary on the Srimad Bhagavatam, on Chaitanya Charitamrita, on Bhagavad Gita. He said that these purports are my ecstasies, and how he inspired disciples to paint and illustrate these texts. And basically these illustrations have become the reference for how these pastimes are illustrated, even by artists in India today, to kind of replicate the BBT illustrations. But not only, Prabhupada offered 108 temples in his lifetime. To offer one temple is a great achievement. Offering 108 temples in his lifetime is beyond remarkable. But that's not all. He offered farm communities, he offered restaurants, he offered a research institute, he offered special projects in Vrindavan and Mayapur. And so these offerings are offerings of Prabhupada's love for Krishna. When we love someone, we want to do something for them. We want to do something for their glory. And so Prabhupada, his ecstasies are expressed in these profound, any one of them taken on their own would be remarkable. All of them together is mind-boggling. And then there are his private ecstasies that he tried to hide, actually, but sometimes he was unable to suppress. Vijayanagar Maharaj was in Prabhupada's presence twice when he became ecstatic in a way that he could not constrain. One was in Paris, when he sat to give Bhagavatam class, and he sung the song Jai Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari, Gopijana Vallabha, Girivardhan Hari. And at one moment he stopped singing and became silent. His eyes closed and tears streaming down his cheeks. And the temple room was full. Devotees were silent, just looking at their spiritual master. And then after a long time, Prabhupada opened his eyes and he said, Chant Hare Krishna. And he got up from his Vyasasana and went up to his room. That was the class for the day. Chant Hare Krishna. 3 words, Bhagavatam class. I got one way over. If that was my quote. The other time that something very similar happened was in Srila Prabhupada, when he sat to your class and he sung the same kirtan, same bhajan. And he became silent, eyes closed, tears streaming from his eyes. Devotees sat in silence until someone started to sing Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Name. And Prabhupada opened his eyes again and went up, and he left the temple. And after devotees they were debating among themselves, what was the right thing to do? Should we have kept silent and let Prabhupada be? Or was it right to interrupt his ecstasy with that kirtan? They asked Prabhupada to settle the dispute. He didn't answer. He changed the topic into something else. Those were his private affairs, and generally he kept them to himself. Sometimes it burst out into public. And so I'm offering those 3 realizations about Prabhupada. 1, someone who is empowered by Krishna, they spread the holy name far and wide. 2, just by seeing them, people are changed, transformed. And 3, that they express ecstatic love for Krishna. Prabhupada is that person in a way that historically sets a standard. I would say never before seen, and I doubt will ever be repeated. Prabhupada's position in history is unique, and forever he will be recognized as the one who came and saved the world by spreading Krishna consciousness, Krishna's teaching, his name, his form, his qualities and pastimes far and wide. And so this day is the most special day in our year. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you so much. That was so beautiful. Srila Prabhupada, would you like to come speak? We'll have Srila Prabhupada speak, and then after that, we'd love to hear from Sita Devi and then Yadana. And please keep the offerings like 5 to 7 minutes now, just so that you all have time before we move on to the Pushpanjali. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Om Krishna Hare Krishna Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachari Vishesha Sunyavadi I just want to speak from Prabhupada's childhood. So, Prabhupada is 5-year-old. So he had been in Calcutta as he was born and raised. he has been seeing the Rath Yatra, all Rath Yatras, Jagannath's Rath Yatra in Kolkata, many temples, Jagannath temple they celebrate. So Prabhupada, at the age of 5, he wanted to celebrate his own Rath Yatra. So that's at the age of 5, generally kids are like, they want to play, but they want to play with anything. But Prabhupada is very specific. He didn't want just a play thing. It is the actual festival. He wants to celebrate Rath Yatra. So he asked his father, Father God one day, he simply said, who always encouraged Prabhupada in Krishna consciousness, always encouraged Prabhupada to practice bhakti. And so Gaurav at that time, he took Prabhupada, 5-year-old kid, to a shop to buy a cart, a Rath Yatra cart. But it was too expensive for him to buy. Also that Prabhupada's father said, why it is, his name is Abai, said, we can't buy that cart, it's too expensive for us, and I can't afford it. So from the shop, while returning home, Prabhupada started crying. And then the whole way he's crying that no, I don't get to celebrate Rath Yatra. He started crying. Then while going, an elderly lady saw Prabhupada and his dad going and Prabhupada's crying. She asked, what's the matter? And then Prabhupada's father Balmande said that he wants to celebrate Rath Yatra, he wants to have his own cart, but I can't afford it. And this old lady says, oh, I have an old cart in my house. It needs little fixing, but it's good. You can have it. And then goes and sees an perfect card for kids. So they took the government, they got it fixed and painted and all, and then he celebrated Rath Yatra. And Prabhupada wanted it in a grand way, not just within the home or anything. He wanted to do it in the street with all the kids and then bring offerings to Jagannath. So they and then Prabhupada organized Rath Yatra festival for the whole neighborhood. Then seeing that, Gaurav father's friends, many saw that and said, hey, you are having a big festival, you are not inviting us. And then his father said, no, this is just for the kids, it is, ultimately it became like a big festival. And all adults are participating in Kirtan, and then there is a lot of prasad, pura, offered, and cart is put, all these things. So, Prabhupada can say as an acharya even from childhood. So he's especially sent by Krishna to propagate Krishna consciousness, to spread. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we see when he appeared. So as a child, when he appeared on the new moon day, and then everybody chanting Gaur Hari. And they take him back to Ganges. Then as a child, Gaurachandra, so he would cry, and then he would keep quiet only when all the ladies and everybody together they chant Krishna's name. Until they all chant Krishna's name, he would keep crying. He would cry anytime he cries. He would not stop. So as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu engaged everyone to chant from as he is an infant, Prabhupada being his one of the empowered acharya, we see that he also started engaging everyone to chant and to participate, to organize these festivals from childhood. And we see later Prabhupada has established ISKCON, and we see the Rath Yatra festival is the first one who brought Jagannath outside India to Western countries, and then he started this huge Rath Yatra festivals. We celebrate here also on 5th Avenue every year. Down the 5th Avenue, the 3 carts are magnificent Jagannath Baladev carts. That is all the credit to Prabhupada, that legacy is continuing till then with so many cities and so many. Because Jagannath is very merciful, and then he is coming on the streets to give that mercy and to give the opportunity to hear the holy names and all, and to just the passerby, like in the Lord of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that's Prabhupada's one of the contribution. So there are many. 5 minutes. So stop here.
Thank you so much.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. On this most auspicious day of the appearance of Srila Prabhupada, I'm feeling very, very honored and happy to be so close to it's like the epicenter, the 22nd Avenue, where the impact that Srila Prabhupada created in this material world. I feel as if I'm blessed to be in this area, and that too on his appearance day. I've just arrived from India, and and everywhere since wherever I've gone, I have seen the impact that Srila Prabhupada has created. How even 50 years later, it's still so powerful. In small examples and experiences that I have seen. And I have been to temples which have been started by Srila Prabhupada in Atlanta, and it's still 50 years later, there are so many Prabhupada disciples. Whoever I have met along this trip, I felt that even 50 years later, they are so dedicated to serving Srila Prabhupada's mission. And that was so inspiring for me to see that even when their bodies are failing, and they are so tired actually, physically and emotionally and mentally, but still they are going on serving Srila Prabhupada's mission and spreading the message of Krishna consciousness. And not only that, I met, somebody who had that same intense desire to preach like Srila Prabhupada, even now, after so many years. And this great devotee, she told me that my only wish is to, see the younger people coming to the temples, and mostly the Western people, to come and again appreciate the gift that Srila Prabhupada has given. The effort that he took to come to the West to give this gift, from the gift from the Vedic culture, from India. He traveled and took such a difficult journey, and on the way he had 2 heart attacks. But his compassion and his desire to serve his spiritual master was so intense and focused that he took this most arduous journey. But see what he has created, I mean, my experience here, which really impacted me, was when I came first time to New York. I was just traveling on a subway, and I was having my bead bag and I was chanting. And at one of the stops, just a random American person, he was elderly, he just walked in and he saw me, and there was a bright smile on his face. And he said, I met the Guru who started this. I said, really? He said, yes, I was staying in New York, in Manhattan, and I would come on the way to work. I used to come to this temple, and there was this effulgent personality, Srila Prabhupada. At that time, he would give out cookies or prasad after the lecture, So he said that was my routine, that I would go on the way to work, stop by, get that cookie. And then with so much emotion he said, and you know what? Once when he gave me the cookie, it touched my little finger, and I still remember and treasure that feeling that I got. And come to think of it, he's saying, I am the same age now what he was at that time. And he said, I still cannot forget, he was like Jesus Christ. He said that, and he just said this, and he walked out because his stop came. And I at that moment realized that this is the impact that Srila Prabhupada created in New York, in the world. That a person who met him so briefly in his life, he was probably in his 20s that time, but he can still remember the greatness of this person, though he didn't know anything about Krishna consciousness, he didn't probably chant any time in his life, but this experience for me overwhelmed me with so much love and gratitude for Srila Prabhupada. That he made such a big difference in this simple New Yorker. Until today, after 50 years, he remembers that experience. So this has been my feeling also. I'm like, my life has been completely changed, Srila Prabhupada, by your mercy. And now, after 30 years in the movement, I can only say that I feel that I can just be even one drop of the love that you had for your Guru to take this artist journey, to come to the West and start this movement. I'm just praying that with your mercy and blessings, if I can try to give even one drop and continue the legacy that you have created and work towards achieving that goal where we can touch each and every living entity's hearts in the way you did and make a difference in this world. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Sita Devi. She just arrived this morning from upstate. And Yagna, please come.
I just want to start off by just noting what an amazing festival that was last night. I don't know how many of you were here. Just a really great Janmashtami celebration. I just want to thank all the organizers and the people who did service, and Srila gave a great talk, and everybody who was involved with it. I really thank you for that. And if you want more Prabhupada Katha, later today at 26 2nd Avenue, the place where it all began, there's a program from 4 o'clock till about 8 o'clock. At 8 o'clock, Prashadam will be served here at the Bhakti Center on the 5th floor. But His Holiness Chandrasekhar Maharaj.
It'll be served with Thursday night kirtans.
Yeah, they put it on the 5th floor. Unless it was changed very recently.
Normally it's in the back.
Normally it is, but
Yeah,
from this morning.
at 8 p.m. we'll be on the 5th floor.
Yeah, because, but keep an eye on that. His Holiness Chandrasekhar Maharaj has organized an array of Prabhupada disciples from all over the world to speak, and that will be streamed on Zoom. So if you can't make it in person and you want to Zoom, you can do that. We start at 4 o'clock, and for the Zoom information, you can go to the 22nd Avenue website, which is krishnanyc.com. Krishna, the long spelling, krishnanyc.com. Hare Krishna, dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisance, all glories to your divine grace. John Lennon, who was your student for a while and who welcomed you to stay at his home in Tittenhurst Park when you first went to England, wrote a classic rock and roll song that starts off, I read the news today, oh boy. His voice is lazy and melancholy, reflecting the news of the day. The song is called A Day in the Life. Just an ordinary day like any other in the material world, where life is characterized by fear and suffering. I read the news today. Oh boy. Tracking the behavior of people as Kali Yuga progresses is downright depressing. It's frightening, it's shocking. And the disturbing thing is that it's becoming less and less shocking every day. The outrageous, the unthinkable, the deplorable is becoming the norm. You knew this would happen all along. You recognized it in the 70s, when to most people, these kinds of things were better. When certain behavior was still unacceptable and there were still consequences. But you knew of the degradation. While most people accepted it and tried to fight it on its own terms, could still be optimistic and find hope, you knew that optimism using material means to combat material disease and suffering is an illusion. You knew that there was really only one hope and that most people wouldn't accept it. You knew where all of it was leading because, after all, you had read and understood the 12th canto of the Bhagavad Purana. I read the news today. Oh boy. An older man in the theater politely told a much younger guy who was sitting in the man's seat that he had a ticket for that seat and respectfully asked him to move. The animal in human form attacked the older man, throwing him up against the wall and beating him severely. A homeless man by a New York subway stabbed another elderly man because he didn't give him the $1 that was requested. The number one cause of death for children between the ages of 1 and 18 in the United States is gun violence. We've become so selfish and desensitized that we accept and in many instances embrace the rampant murder of our own children in favor of, quote, personal freedom. In a weird way, there's an upside to these horrors too. They serve as an impetus, at least for me they do, an impetus to detach from the madness and illusion and pursue the spiritual reality. You changed my life, Srila Prabhupada, quite literally, and I am forever indebted to you. I cannot fathom the compassion that fills your heart. I can only express my gratitude that I am one of its recipients. I cannot understand how a person can be so selfless. I can only take inspiration from that great soul. I cannot conceive of how much, how well, and how completely you love. I can only tell others about you and try to follow your example. You can't be pigeonholed either. Conservative, liberal, old-fashioned, progressive, fierce and firm, soft and sweet. Srila Prabhupada, you lift me up, you spin me around, you turn me sideways. You blow my mind, you give me God, you show me freedom. You teach me life, you teach me death, you reveal the power that can come with surrender. Your books are a scalpel, cutting through the thickness of my emotional armor and material conditioning. Your words are a retractor, opening my eyes, opening my heart, so I may see transcendence and know how to love. Your care is my hope and my treasure, my way to read the news today and process it with ultimate understanding. In gratitude and love, you serve me up.
Hare Krishna. This offering is by Arjuna Prabhu. He asked me to read it. He's in Vrindavan right now. For those who don't know Arjuna Prabhu, he's a resident Prabhupada, disciple of Srila Prabhupada. I'm very, very dedicated to him. Had many personal opportunities for personal associations with Prabhupada. And he's kind of constantly remembering Prabhupada. He's very absorbed. And he always sends me pictures of Prabhupada. It's kind of like his smaranam, his Leela smaranam is just very much thinking of Prabhupada and all the exchanges he had with him in the mood of humility and gratitude, which I always appreciate so much about him. Very chaste, very loyal person. So I just wanted to read his offering. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my obeisances at your lotus feet. I approach them with deep humility and gratitude both of which increase with each new sunrise. I have seen that our offerings to your divine grace please you very much according to their zeal and power. I hope you will be able to detect at least a morsel of that within this offering and therefore feel pleased. In a blink of my eyes, over 50 years have passed since you have appeared in my life. Back in the early days, your physical darshan seemed to have eradicated all misery, instead replacing it with immense joy. This dark world suddenly became so full of light, which to this day continues to appear on all horizons. As I presently offer Arutik to you each morning, I can understand more and more that your lotus feet are the perfection of all desires that lay hidden within my heart. Even though I'm so unworthy, I pray for your most beautiful darshan to appear within once again before I leave this mortal world. Srila Prabhupada, you are awakening all of our spiritual potentialities. You have left behind so many divine purports, letters, and lectures, which are available as loving guidance for the whole world. They are like mines of mercy, waiting to be excavated by all living entities roaming this material prison house as they undergo the miseries of birth, death, old age, and disease. A more benign, gracious, and beloved person than you, Srila Prabhupada, can hardly be found in this world. You are the Supreme Personality of Servitor Godhead, fully empowered to carry out the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We therefore loudly chant, Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jaya, Jaya, Jaya Srila Prabhupada. As I navigate this blessed life, I often find myself repeatedly uttering these words of glorification of you. I just can't help but do so when I think of what you have given us and what we ourselves and are duty bound to also give to others. We attempt to take on this responsibility as a means of assisting you and lessening the burden that you have so compassionately taken on in service to your own Gurudev. This means of transforming your teaching, this means of transforming your teachings into a practical reality is the way in which your grace can be attained, as opposed to merely performing mechanical prostrations. You have taught that the perfection of human life is to accept the spiritual master and faithfully follow his instructions. Srila Prabhupada, I've tried to act according to your pure words, as opposed to the dictates of my crazy, polluted mind. Having this complete obedience is a difficult task, but by trying with sincerity, it becomes easy. I ask that you please pardon me for all my failures and shortcomings in trying to progress on this path of surrender. May I rise above envy, indecency, and hypocrisy, which have come upon me time and time again. I seek your blessings to have the strength to be 100% loyal to your ISKCON mission, which is none different than your own body, eternally. Please, dear Holy Father, empower me to serve you in this way. I pray to be corrected, inspected, and not neglected. Your aspiring servant, Arjuna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Arjuna Prabhu ki jai. So now we will come to the next part of our celebration today. I'm just going to finish the offering to Srila Prabhupada. Meanwhile, we can all assemble here. And you can take some flower petals, and then we'll chant prayers, and we'll offer those petals to Srila Prabhupada when we say Esha Pushpanjali. So we'll speak a little bit more before that ceremony starts. So please come forward. So we'll be offering prayers responsibly to Srila Prabhupada and the entire Guru Parampara. This is Vyas Puja celebration. We're worshiping Srila Prabhupada, but it's not him alone. It's also what he represents, which is Lord Krishna and the entire disciplic succession of spiritual teachers. So we're offering prayers to all of them, and especially offering our flowers to Srila Prabhupada, as he's the representative of Krishna and this entire lineage. So this is called Pushpanjali. Anjali means folded hands and Pushpa means flowers. So it's actually not meant to be just like thrown, meant to be offered gracefully. And we don't have such a big crowd, so we can actually do that. So you can either take your petals now. We offer flowers 3 times, so you can either take them right now and spread them in 3 ways, or you can just take a few petals every time. It's a small handful. And we have, this is what we have. So we'll all have to make do with it. So please repeat after me. Om.
Ajnanatirmirandhasya
Jnananjana Shalakaya Akshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vidangscha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Asvatarine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namine Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Dayitaya Kripabdhaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana
Krishna Sambandha Vijnana
Dayine Prabhave Namaha
Dayine Prabhave Namaha
Madhuryojjvala Premadha
Madhuryojjvala Premadhyam
Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida
Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida
Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti
Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti
Vigrahaya Namostate
Vigrahaya Namostute
Namaste Gauravani
Namaste Gauravani
Shri Murtaye Dinatarine
Shri Murtaye Dinatarine
Rupanuga Virudhapa
Rupanuga Virudhapa
Siddhanta Dhvanta Harine
Siddhanta Dhantarine
Namo Gaura Kishoraya
Namo Gaura Kishoraya
Sakshat Vairagya Murtaye
Sakshat Vairagya Murtaye
Vipralambara Sambodhe
Vipralambara Sambodhe
Padambhujayate Namaha
Parambhujayate Namaha
Namo Bhakti Vinodaya
Namo Bhakti Vinodaya
Satchidanandanamine
Satchidanandanamine
Gaura Shakti Swarupaya
Gaura Shakti Swarupaya
Rupanuga Varayate
Rupanuga Varayate
Gauravirbhava Bhumestvam
Gauravirbhava Bhumestvam
Nirdeshta Sajjana Priyaha
Nirdeshta Sajjana Priya
Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri
Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri
Jagannatayate Namaha
Jagannatayate Namaha
Mancha Kalpatarubhyascha
Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha
Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha
Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha
Patitanam Bhavanebhyo
Patitanam Bhavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha
Namo Mahavadanyaya
Namo Mahadanyaya
Krishna Prema Pradayate
Krishna Prema Pradayate
Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya
Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya
Namne Gaura Tushe Namaha
Namne Gaura Tushe Namaha
Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam
Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam
Bhaktarupa Swarupakam
Bhaktarupa Swarupakam
Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam
Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam
Namami Bhakta Shaktikam
Namami Bhakta Shaktikam
He Krishna Karuna Sindhu
He Krishna Karuna Sindhu
Dinabandho Jagatpate
Dinabandho Jagatpate
Gopesha Gopika Kanta
Gopesha Gopika Kanta
Radha Kanta Namostate
Radha Kanta Namostate
Jayatam Suratau Pango
Jayatam Suratau Pango
Mama Manda Mater Gati
Mama Manda Mater Gati
Matsarvasva Padam Bhajau
Matsarvasva Padam Bhojo
Shri Radha Madan Mohana
Shri Radha Madan Mohano
Divyat Vrindaranya
Divyat Vrindaranya
Padrumadaha
Kalpadrumadaha
Shri Bhadranagara
Srimad Ratnagara
Simhasanastha
Simhasanasto
Shrimad Radha
Srimad Radha
Srila Govinda Deva
Srila Govinda Deva
Prishtalibhi
Prishtalibhi
Sevyamana Smarami
Sevyamano Smarami
Sriman Rasarasaramhi
Sriman Rasarasaramhi
Shri Vatratrastitaha
Vamshi Vatratrastitaha
Darshan Venu Swanar Gopi
Karshan Venusvanar Gopir
Gopinath Shriyestunaha
Gopinath Shriyestunaha
Kanchana Gaurangi
Bhakta Kanchana Gaurangi
Radhe Vrindavaneshwari
Radhe Vrindavaneshwari
Vrishabhanusute Devi
Vishwavanusute Devi
Pranamami Hare Priye
Pranamami Hare Priye
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda
Prabhu Nityananda
Advaita Gadadhara
Advaita Gadadhara
Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda
Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Hare Rama Hare Rama
Hare Rama Hare Rama
Rama Rama Hare Hare
Rama Rama Hare Hare
Om Vishnupadaya
Namo Vishnupadaya
Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale
Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale
Srimate Bhaktivedanta
Srimate Bhaktivedanta
Swamiti
Namine
Namaste Saraswati Deve
Namaste Saraswati Deve
Gauravani Pracharine
Gauravani Pracharine
Nirvishesha Shunyavadi
Nirvishesha Shunyavadi
Pastatya Deshatarine
Pastatya Deshatarine
Esha Pushpanjali
Esha Pushpanjali
His Divine Grace Srimad Abhay Charan Aravind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Namo Vishnupadaya
Namo Vishnupadaya
Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale
Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale
Srimate Bhaktivedanta
Srimate Bhaktivedanta
Swaminiti Namine
Swaminiti Namine
Namaste Saraswati Deve
Namaste Saraswati Deve
Gauravani Pracharine
Gauravani Pracharine
Vishesha Shunyavadi
Nirvishesha Sunyavadi
Pastatya Deshatarine
Pastatya Deshatarine
Esha Pushpanjali
Esha Pushpanjali
His Divine Grace Srimad Abhay Charan Aravind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Om Vishnupadaya
Namo Vishnupadaya
Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale
Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale
Srimate Bhaktivedanta
Srimate Bhaktivedanta
Swaminiti Namine
Swaminiti Namine
Namaste Saraswati Deve
Namaste Saraswati Deve
Gauravani Pracharine
Gauravani Pracharine
Nirvishesha Shunyavadi
Nirvishesha Shunyavadi
Pastatya Deshatarine
Pastatya Deshatarine
Esha Pushpanjali
Esha Pushpanjali
His Divine Grace Srimad Abhay Charan Aravind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Samstapakacharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Sure, yeah.
Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Samsaradava Talalira Loka Tadaya Karuna Gana Gana
Samsaradava
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Abhay Charanarinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Gopis Sanatan Bhaktivinoda Shri Jiva Gopal Bhattara Sarvana Sarva Swami Prabhupada Ki Prem Sugoho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gaur Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Ganga Devi Ki Yamuna Devi Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Tulsi Maharani Ki Harinam Sankirtan Ki, Maya Punavadip Dham Ki, Vrajabhumi Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki, Shri Shri Radha Muridhara Ki, Shri Gaurachandra Ki, Shri the Prabhupada Vyasa Puja Mahotsava Ki, Hari Gaur Premanandi. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Shri Guru Guranga. All glory to Srila Prabhupada.